Yes, yes, people. Me again, Mr. B. And this is Wednesday. And if it's Wednesday, you know, say, it's the Jamaica mix time. And so today, we're going to take a look at a couple of issues bubbling well, them on the radar now. One of them is the election. It is election time in Jamaica, and it's only a matter of when. Remember, now only one person in Jamaica have the authority to call election. In other words, the date. This is the man who know the date, and all heap of things we need to unpack in the next hour as we take a look at Jamaica as it now starts to gallop towards national elections. The second issue that we want to talk about is the whole development that has basically crept up on Jamaica, certainly over the last couple of weeks. This is not to say that it wasn't known beforehand, and this is the factor of the disaffection among a lot of Jamaican sportsmen and women, especially after we headed out of the Paris Olympics. A lot of our sportsmen and women have become very vocal as to their disaffection with how the whole sports portfolio is being administered in the country. Now, Babsy Grange, and politics aside, you have to like Babsy Grange. Babsy has done, she has served the country well in respect of how she has managed her portfolio as Minister of Sports. I have some thoughts on her portfolio generally, though, and we're gonna share them now. I think Babsy has served the ministry very well. I believe, though, that the ministry that she has is too big. It has too many significantly important subjects. And in my opinion, at least two of those subjects, sports and culture, really should have their own minister. But again, these are some of my own thoughts, and I'm gonna put them out there this evening. But let's deal with the Babsy Grange thing and the sports thing first, right? Now, unless you're living under a rock, you would by now be aware that some 4 Jamaican athletes, field event athletes primarily, have decided to trade in the flag, the Jamaican flag, for a Turkish flag. And this has basically stirred up the ants' nest back home. And it as we approach an election cycle, this has also become of the discussions with respect to the elections, the politicking, and so on. And so it's an opportunity, in my opinion, for us to field this discussion, because without a proper information base, it's very difficult to have a discussion. Now, Minister Babsy Grange addressed the Parliament, I think it was today, where she, her contribution to the sectoral debate and timing. I listened to her presentation, most of it, and again, you have to like Babsy. You may believe that she has been there for a while, and maybe I think she is at our zenith right now, or the end of her tether. The whole dynamics of sports and culture, in my opinion, requires that we bring somebody who is younger to these portfolios. Not taking anything away from Babsy, she has served and served well. She made a comment in her presentation that this administration has given more to sports than any other administration in the political and social history of Jamaica. And she may very well be correct in that, because we know, she does bat for the athletes. Now, part of her presentation that I found quite striking is the comment she made about the athletes who have decided to go this route. And rather than play politics, and again, we have to, we criticize our politicians, and I'm guilty of that too. But, one has to be realistic, and one needs to put praise, in the same way how we put criticism. We need to recognize when somebody, is speaking from their heart. And I thought today Babsy Grange was really talking from her heart. She is committed to her portfolios in as much as I believe that she has too much on her plate. But she made a comment, and I can't play the thing here because once you post up somebody else's recording, the Gleaner had a nice coverage of our presentation. But if you post it, it becomes copyright strike, and we can't bother with that. So we're going to just, rehash her contribution. But she said one shouldn't be condemning or critical of these athletes, right? Because an athlete is no different from the average Jamaican like myself, who you have a certain set of skills. You have a timeline in terms of, when none of us are going to live forever. And certainly in the athletic, the sporting field, your timeline in terms of your career trajectory, career, the whole career period is not limitless. On an average, athletes are good for about 5 to 7 years. We shouldn't allow the fact that people like Usain and Shelly, and God bless Shelly-Ann, and our athletes who have served for long, because to a large extent, Shelly, Usain, Safa, these people are aberrations. The average sporting person is, their career is a good, as I said, 5 to 7 years, and 7 years is pushing it. And so within that short timeline of a professional sporting career, you have a responsibility as a sports person to try to get the best that you can out of the time that you have, right? It is very important that Jamaicans understand that. Let me also say this. While nobody wants to see our athletes going to other shores, as Babsy correctly pointed out, and again, if you not like her politically, let's look at her and her humanity, because this was her humanity speaking. She says these people have a responsibility to themselves and their families to try to seek the best that them can get for the time that I'm operating in the sport. A position that I have spoken to repeatedly, not just since this thing has developed, but long before. So when we saw, I remember people giving Sanya Richards a hard time for, abandoning Jamaica to go run for the United States of America. Sanya Richards at the time had to make a move to pastures that she figured was going to be better for her and her own development. Good evening, Opal Morris Powell, loyal fan of this program. Always happy to see you, and just invite you to share this stream with your friends. Let's have this discussion. But to go back, and so when athletes make these decisions that they're moving, it is about income, because not everybody have some other the kind of technical personnel behind them who can look into the future, who can look and say, that, you know, this is what is your lifeline is going to look like. You can't see the future. So you have to go off what is available to you, and you make your decisions based on that. And so these athletes decided, the Turkish people came after them, um, and made some offers, monetary offers, that in the minds of, and after they have applied their own, you know, processing to the offers, that it is worthwhile them going. Now somebody come to you and give $500,000 US as a signing on bonus. $500,000 US is, what is that? Just about 80 million Jamaican dollars. Not a lot of people have the ability to, or will ever see $80 million in their lifetime. Not a lot of people. And so a youngster who has not tasted that kind of money before, it is not an unreasonable position for them to be contemplating it and even deciding to go in that direction, because what they're doing is leveraging. Now, there are some who, based on the potential that they are currently showing, that may not be the best, the most economic use of the talent and skills that they have, especially if them have sponsors already. But that is not the case for a majority of our athletes. And in the case of our field event people, we have already seen that the deck is not level in terms of how the J3 or the Jamaica Olympic Association and the country generally views athletes who are on the track as opposed to athletes who are doing field events. And this kind of anomaly creates the kind of situation that these youngsters find themselves in, where they're being poached. Now, as Babsy pointed out as well in her presentation, that while she's not happy for that these people are making or contemplating these moves, one thing that we all should remember is that none of these athletes will stop being Jamaicans. The fact that they maybe, you know, doing their sports under another flag doesn't remove their Jamaican origin, Jamaican background from them. And so, you know, in the circumstances of these moves, what we really need to do is to support these athletes, right? Now, we can talk about greater support to the wider pool of athletes who are out there contemplating representing Jamaica, or actually wearing the black, green, and gold currently. And so remember that not all athletes operate at the same level. The fact that you may qualify to wear the colors on an international stage doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a top-class athlete. You're going to be carrying home gold medals every day. Remember, in each event, you only have 3 medals. Gold for coming first, silver for coming second, bronze for coming third. And so if when you line up in competition against a broad cadre of athletes, your chance of getting a medal is not any different from any of the other athletes. But once you are medaling, you are now distinguishing yourself. And so the athletes who are not medaling, say, for example, we look at the sprints, the 100, the 200, which is really our Aki as far as international track athletics is concerned. We have a pool of youngsters who are running the 100 and the 200 meters. But remember, only one of them can win. And after having determined a winner, only one can run second and generate or garner a silver medal. And by extension, only one will run third to garner a bronze medal. Beyond that, the rest who may have made it to a final, they're not going to be in a position to generate the kind of earnings that somebody who is running who has won a medal, worse, a gold medal. They're not going to think. So not all athletes are equal in that respect. And it's all the more reason why when you have such a broad pool that athletes are going to have to be focusing on not only their own self-development, their own career development, but self-development. And sometimes, you know, it comes down to a case where because we are producing these athletes in the kind of volumes that we do, maybe the time is right that, you know, some of these athletes, we're producing them and they're going to go elsewhere to represent other countries because them can't get the same kind of deals in the current environment. I'll give you a good example. During the Bolt years, Usain Bolt, Nesta Carter, you know, Johan Blake, Asafa Powell, and a host of others, basically form the core of Jamaica's sprinting. In fact, at one time when we looked at between 2012 and 2014, of the 10 fastest men in the world, 8 of them were Jamaicans. Now, of the 10 fastest men in the world, or of the 8 Jamaicans, let me step up. Of the 8 Jamaicans who rank in the top 10, only 3 of them, 4 if you count Asafa. Asafa has really never medaled serious individual medal at any of these international championships. I think he had 1 world championship medal, but at the Olympics, no. And so only Usain Bolt dominated this thing. In fact, over time, a rift we learned developed between Blake and Bolt because Blake basically, you know, thought himself as being sidelined by his coach because Bolt alone get all of the thing. A little bit of a nonsense thinking or reasoning, if you ask me. But this was the kind of rancor that developed, you know, to the extent that he abandoned Mills's camp, and we all know the history if you follow in track and field behind that. But what it did provide was a sort of a look into the kind of environment that operates with respect to how professional athletics is viewed within the cadre of athletes. And so Blake went his own way. Thank God that him did win a world championship medal after Bolt had been disqualified at the world championships. And so he was a thing. And then he ran the second fastest time over the 200 meters at one of those you know, the one of those international meets. So the point though is that not all athletes are going to earn at the same level, and so athletes have to basically be smart in terms of how they look down the line, right? And so it is against this background that when the athletes are now in this contemplative mode, right? We see Zarnell Hughes, who I think he, from Turks and Caicos, came to school in Jamaica, did what 2 or 3 years in high school, ran at champs, and then the minute his time was up in school, he went and turned out for the United Kingdom, and is now the UK's top sprinter. But to a certain extent, as a country, Jamaica can claim a piece of him because him train and go to school in Jamaica, right? The same is true, Sania Richards Ross, we claim her because she's Jamaican. So for these athletes who are contemplating, we shouldn't castigate them. What we hope is that them are under proper guidance, them those who, because not, there's a term them say many are called, but only a few are chosen. So while these other countries are out there recruiting, they may, approach particular athletes, but that doesn't guarantee that I'm going to take them on, because there's a process involved. But when our Jamaican cadre of athletes is contemplating this, my thing is we shouldn't be condemning. What we probably want to know, look at, and as Babsy Grange was careful to point out today in her presentation, that the time has come. I think the time not just come. It's a long time now we should be doing this, where we have to take a serious look. Remember, Jamaica has been involved in track and field now for 75. This is our 76th year. When you do the, if you do the math, go back to 1948, 70 odd years, right? We went to the Olympic Games in London in 1948, and we distinguished ourselves. And over the years, Jamaica has always distinguished itself on the international sphere. And so, as a consequence of that, and even more so as a consequence of the dominance, certainly between 2004 to 2016, more of our young people have decided to take on athletics as an option. A lot, in fact, it's a lot more than we are even aware of, because championships, the high school championships produces a plethora of athletes. A lot of these athletes, after champs, you don't see them again. And the reason behind that is, and these are athletes who distinguish themselves at champs, you don't see them again because they go, those who can matriculate into international or overseas colleges, universities, they take up these scholarships. And a lot of these athletes who take up these scholarships, they go, they do them little running and jumping and whatever while I'm in them college years. But central to what they're doing is that them getting a college degree at the expense of the inviting institution. And once they finish them degree, them done with athletics. And so athletics has opened a tremendous amount of doors for Jamaicans. And what we need to do is to understand the structure within which this operates and how Jamaicans benefit from track and field. Now, for those who decide to take track and field as a profession, right, we also have to be clear that not all of these athletes are making money. Not all of these athletes have sponsors. And because them don't have sponsors, this is where it becomes tenuous in terms of their continuity, because them coming out of pocket. A lot of people talk about Jamaicans, some of them get contracts and shoe contracts and gears contracts. In those contracts, there are clauses. So if the athlete don't medal at the Olympics or World Championships in a particular year, there is a tripwire in the contract that drops them earnings, right? A few of these athletes are seasoned enough and established enough that they have local sponsors and local contracts with, local business institutions in Jamaica. And maybe this is where we want for the business community to become more a part of. We pay a lot of lip service to sports. When Jamaica was doing well in track and field, enough people go up out of half a tree and wherever in them town square with them pot cover and them clang and carry on and thing. Them full up the stadium when you have, international meets or even the local trials, because people look at these as the mini Olympics. The fact is that the followership that you have behind athletics, a lot of the people don't really know how the programs work. And so we are out there with some misguided views. And in the course of being misguided, we criticize the athletes unnecessarily. The reality is that in the same way nurses, doctors, or teachers, or the average Joe Blow like myself, who look around in Jamaica, you don't see the opportunity there for yourself, but you have the opportunity to go foreign. America, Canada, the United Kingdom. And people do that because people migrate all the time from everywhere. It's just a fact of life because human beings are always going to be in search of the option that works best for them. And so, against that background, Minister Grange, gave her address. She talked about, the necessity for stakeholders, other stakeholders, who benefit from the energy that is derived from Jamaica's participation in international competition to become part of the process. I heard the young fellow who manages Hibbert, young Hibbert, the triple jumper, who is deciding to take up Turkey. And he talked about a program that he has, a program he has formulated in the wake of this development, that looks at, compensation, broad-based compensation for a broader list of athletes. He talked about, sort of leveling the playing field. Most of these athletes would not go anywhere, it is my view, if they could guarantee that, along the way, they were able to pay them bills, right? And so we have to look now at developing these funding pools that will address these athletes and their needs, especially those who that's all them do. Because remember, when them out the street and them when them out there and them run and win, we stand up and cheer and applaud and so on. And so we need to look at how do we provide this kind of support. It is interesting too that when was it, on Monday night, we saw where the Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce's sponsors, Nike, came to Jamaica and they feted her at the AC Hotel in Kingston. A pretty nice function. In fact, this particular shot here you see me showing here is with Babsy Grange. She posing with Shelly-Ann. Shelly-Ann, and I want to say a little word about Shelly, because Shelly is a representation of what every Jamaican, you'd really love it if every Jamaican could, exude the kind of energy and commitment that Shelly does. A good example for our girls, young girls to follow, young men and women to follow in general. But again, the heights that great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, while their companions slept. Shelly is a worker, and Shelly is not a complainer. When things don't go in her favor, she brush herself up. She fall down, she brush herself off, she get up and she move again. And we are gonna miss her in terms of her contribution on the track, but I believe that our work just started. I personally believe that Shelly have a bigger work to do for Jamaica. No other Jamaican, in my opinion, is more influential than her. And the reasoning behind that is because of the positive way that she operates, right? As Opal Morris says, Shelly is the epitome of everything an athlete should be. Not only as an athlete, Opal, I think Shelly epitomizes where we would love to see more Jamaicans, especially those who have the opportunity to represent country. This is the direction that we would allow them to say. I personally believe that Shelly has a huge role to play, certainly over the next decade or two, in the social life of Jamaica. I am not calling her, not from a it don't have to be from a political standpoint, but I believe the gifts that she has, ought to be more greatly explored and exploited, so that a lot more Jamaicans can take a page out of her book. Tell me one thing, right? Thank you, Opal. You know, we mustn't give people flowers when them dead, right? PP said time come, choose Jamaica. PP me so reach the politics. Me know say you sharp your teeth. You want we're going at the politics thing. I mean, I'm gonna get a frank assessment of the politics thing. So don't go nowhere. You know, and it no matter, just keep the discussion above board, above the rim, and we're good. But we our little place on the rock, there's just such an impact that we have. My take is, and you see how me I big up Babsy, because Babsy need for big up. But me think too that Babsy kind of reached the end of our road, right? We sports is a big thing right now. Sports and technology is now walking in lockstep together. I'm not, I think the speed with which the whole sporting portfolio at the global level is traveling, right, is beyond the capacity. Certainly me as a 60-plus-year-old man wouldn't take on that kind of responsibility at this stage of my life. I certainly would be willing to give some to put my views out there, to make some suggestions. But I really believe that this is the kind of portfolio that requires somebody who is younger, somebody who is more nimble, somebody who has the ability to float with the direction that the sport is going. Babsy has done tremendously well, but I honestly believe that given the rate at which their developments are moving, it's like you turn on your computer and you are in the homes of 8 billion people one time. That's how fast the sport is. And I wouldn't take that job on at my age. And Babsy made a much younger man for Babsy. May not believe that we'll get the best use of the portfolio at this time. Babsy has done well, as best as she can. I hear her talking about the studies. Let me tell you what Babsy can do at this time. Right now, I believe that the Jamaica Olympic Association and the Jamaica Amateur or Athletics, or that me call it, can't remember what their name, Administrative Associate, whatever them call themselves, the J3. I believe that those two institutions need to be overall, right? As Babsy said in her presentation today, she don't tell them what to do. But I listened to Gareth Gale and read some Gleaner reports of some contributions that he made in some discussions that were hosted over the last the past couple of days. It is my view that Gareth Gale is either a carry secret for some people in the J3A and the whole sporting community, because the attitude that he exudes, them have a term and them say you stink like thunder, right? Which is the one of the byproducts from the sugar manufacturing process, right? His attitude stinks. In my opinion, this man should never be anywhere near people's young children where he is running an organization that provides administrative support for an activity that involves young people. Him don't have the ability to speak to anybody as young people, right? He should either walk away or them should fire him. And whoever it is that constitute the vote process that appoints these executives at J3, that need to be called. Totally, they need to run with every single striking soul that is there. And we need to basically clean house and put some people there who understand that their role is to provide oversight and guidance. You can't talk to young people in a manner that the country have a problem where some of its athletes are looking to jump ship. And rather than focus on the issue at hand, you are taking this combative approach. The same thing with the Jamaica Olympic Association president. He need to leave too. Him there told you can't have them people who in them jobs almost as if when them born, the job description drop out of their mother on the hospital bed. And so it feed them until them dead. Nothing can work so. We're in a changing, global, ever-changing environment, right? Where the approaches to dealing with things on a social level is a function of the technologies that are out there, and that influences people and their thinking. The young people, my kids are now adults, but there is no way I could have speak to my son, whether directly or indirectly, in the way I hear he speaks of these athletes. Athletes come and represent that they have issues, coaching issues, they have issues with support, and you are making it seem as if you are doing them a favor, right? Unlike what the minister said today, that these are funds that are there to provide for the welfare of the athletes. But when you go to the J3A, Mr. Man talk of his input and how it affects the athletes, as if it's him doing them a favor, and that them need to bend down and kiss him ring, right? Nothing can go so. That is the problem that we have. As a man who have followed sports from 1969, may I tell you, this is the worst that we have seen. I am not optimistic that Jamaica is going to come out of the woods anytime soon, based on what I've seen and the atmosphere that permeates the Jamaica's track and field at this time. The developments that we saw where these youngsters are looking to abandon ship is a function of the economics on the one hand and how they are handled by the governing body of the sport. And most of these people are saying they don't have to put up with that kind of thing, right? What we need to do is to find, as Babsy said, the Prime Minister tasked her with the job of looking at this whole sport situation and make some recommendations. Well, I just throw out a couple of recommendations. The first thing is we need to get rid of the membership of the J3A and the JOA. We need to clean house. We need to come clean, start afresh. We also need a younger sports minister, somebody who is more attuned to the circumstances that impact our athletes, that impact the sport, right? We see where Michael Johnson and his experiment the other day with the Grand Slam track. That is because the problem in terms of emoluments and remuneration for athletes is not a Jamaican problem, it's a global problem, right? A lot of these athletes who are running on the international circuit, they are self-financed, or them are beg people to help them with training costs, etc., etc. So it's not a Jamaica alone problem. It's a global problem. It's a problem that is, particular with the sport. And so our job as a political administration on the one hand, and the administrators of the respective bodies that provide oversight for the sport, is to come to terms with where we are. Take a look at yourself, right? I've never heard this guy Gail speak to an issue presented to him that because it's not going in his direction, that he embraces the critique, right? Jamaica cannot pay what the but PP, nobody now ask Jamaica to pay nobody $500,000, right? And we shouldn't get caught up in that kind of thing. The reality is the Jamaican athletes are simply asking for, greater consideration. Nobody, the $500,000 that is being offered, that is not even a guarantee, right? Because if you deliver, they're not gonna run you the same way because you are being employed. But the reality is that if athletes choose to go, remember, one of the things with being a Jamaican is that you're free to live any goddamn where in the world you want to live as long as they may have you. And if you have a skill that somebody will recruit you to come and live in your country and you feel it's worth your while, go on, go take it up. Nothing wrong with that, right? There's absolutely nothing at all wrong with that. We are pretending as if we want to dictate to these youngsters as to how and where them should go. The fact that somebody decided to go run for Turkey or Japan or because Jamaicans in all about over the place, right? That don't make them any less Jamaican, right? That doesn't. And if they believe that that is what is going to be in their best interest, nothing wrong with that. Let them go on. That's what freedom means. When you don't have people who are telling you what you have to do. That is not the history of Jamaica. And again, may I have to lift my hat to Babsy in terms of her presentation today, right? May I have to lift my hat. Because she made that abundantly clear, right? That nobody is telling these youngsters what they must or must not do, right? What you hope, and that is my philosophy, is that they are seeking the best guidance as them contemplate these decisions, right? But it's a good thing for Jamaica. It's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's a bad thing from the perspective that we'll lose the talent. But as Babsy said today, a yasso them make, don't a yard build them. So we shouldn't believe that because them will turn up for another country that we're done with them. No, we can't do that. We're not. That's not what it is, right? With a hope that they will stay, and so in the hope that they will stay, her job over the next couple of days is to come up with a proposal, a program, right? How you can make these, and the stakeholders are there. A lot of them have good ideas. We just need for everybody must come now and sit down, and then we need to listen to the athletes. What is it that is assailing them? Because you can't put programs together for people that you're not talking to them, right? And Mr. Gareth Gale's attitude that I've seen stink like done. That's my take, right? So, it's important that we understand where we are come from, right? It's not a case where the situation we can change it overnight. No, right? Me personally, I don't believe that we are gonna see the kind of success that we had grown accustomed to back in the 2012, 2016, 2008. No, but we have the suckers, the shoots in the soil, right? We need to nurture them now and develop them. We need to put in that work so we can get them. Donovan Wallace says government knows what the problem is. They just don't care, in my opinion. And Donovan, don't agree with you, but again, it's your opinion, as you said, Mr. Wallace, and I respect that. It's easy when we're not wearing the hat, when we don't have to make the decision to criticize. And I know that because I do a little criticism myself. But you know, in a quiet moment, you take the time and you look back. As somebody pointed out, PP said in his thing, Jamaica can't pay what these wealthy oil countries can pay, and he's absolutely correct with that. But you know, that is their negotiating tool. The government finds itself, not just the government, but all of us as Jamaica, because this is not a government problem. This is a Jamaica problem. Our reality in Jamaica is that for certainly over the last 30 years of participating in international sporting competitions, we have not put in the kind of investment that our ranking in the international athletic or sporting sphere demands. For example, we have a stadium that we should have licked that down long time, because the stadium is archaic, outdated, old, emaciated. That stadium built 1957-58, right? Look how much years that. That's 70 odd years that. Eh? And so if we need to invest in a stadium facility that is reflective of the stature that we have occupied in the sporting world. We should be hosting more international competitions given our stature, right? Jamaica is regarded as one of the top track countries in the world, but we don't have our investment is not matching up with our reputation, right? And if you tell me, Donovan, that from this perspective, because this particular administration has talked about not willing to spend money to put in this kind of infrastructure, on that I will agree with you. But we have to do this. The government don't have to build a new stadium, you know. Government need to create the environment where people with the money, once the program that is offered to them is worthwhile, they will come out and say, all right, it's going to cost us how much $1 billion to put up a new stadium. Let's go and because you have what you have is a portfolio and policy framework within which you can make this operate. Build a stadium down in a St. Catherine, outside of the corporate area, where it tie up traffic. Once you have a big event at the stadium, nobody can move between Mountain View and Harper-Tree. We need to send them go down to St. Catherine, and you build a nice sporting facility down there, so you can put in a museum where we now can you know, regale and celebrate all of the people in Jamaica who have contributed to the reputation that we have. You must have a museum, you must have some restaurants, you must have a little cinema where you can go sit down and you look back, you reflect on Jamaica's sporting prowess over the years, right? We must use that now as a tourism offering. And in addition to that, because you now have the facilities, you can invite, you know, athletes from other countries to come and train in Jamaica, right? Because we have the best coaches. Those are the facts. But I think what Mr. Wallace is saying is as clear as day. I think they don't think runners would do that. I think Mr. Donovan, here's what we need to do. You know, and I guess again, because we are not impacted by the thing directly, so, you know, we think, but nothing wrong with putting your ideas out, or you know, out front. I believe that, you know, I will agree with you that successive political administrations have failed to put the kind of infrastructural investment in place that is, you know, that basically is consistent with our deliveries over the years. That I will agree with. That's not a JLP or a PNP thing. That's a political problem in Jamaica. And what that speaks to, and in this respect, I will agree with you, that the problem is that our political administrators, especially the leadership, pay lip service to the athletes and their development. And when the time comes to put you in an pockets, like you carry out a girl, you chat up a girl to try look her. And then she finally give you a date. And when the date time come around, you know turn up because you know I'm going in your pocket to spend the money. Because you want drink the milk, but you know want buy the cup. Right? So at the same thing, we now our political masters have never demonstrated enough. Yeah, them do a little thing, them build some statue, and I know just this administration have put up statue. They have put up statue a long time. The big statue up there with Arthur Wind, well, it's not exactly Arthur Wind, it's about the 4x400 meters team that won at Helsinki. But you know, that from them time that they have put up statue. But what have they actually done for the athletes? Neville Williams, let me say, but Neville said, I am in full agreement with the athlete who chose to abandon ship. The J3 is behaving as if the athletes have no right to any part of the deal with the sponsor. The Puma agreement against Adidas offer is the best kept secret. Totally agree with that, with you on that, Neville. What can go so? The explanation of athletes start from champs. I think you mean the exploitation of athletes. Start from no one really knows what is the value of the Grace Kennedy sponsorship at champs. There's a disparity as it relates to ticket allocations for grandstand. As a former school administration, I requested, let me see where say here, your post long, so it drop off. Let me see if I can pick it up from here. Yeah, you say as a former school administrator, I requested tickets to purchase long before they were placed on the market, only to be told that the grandstand is sold out. How can I support a system which has no respect for schools that is not in the top 10, but I have to use scarce resources to prepare athletes for competition and then be treated as outside children? The explanation of athletes continue to the exploitation, I think is what they mean, of athletes continue to the senior years of the athletes. They have to go to the J3 on bended knees, exposing your private business to them in order to get a six-pack. I am surprised that more of these athletes have not taken up the offer to change their allegiance. Some strong words there, Neville, very strong words. I can't tell you that I disagree with you. And so it exposes the problems that are endemic within the system. I remember 2 years ago, I was coming back from Champs and I saw Don Webby at the airport, and I pointed out to him because it became clear to me that Champs was losing its sting. We have capitalized Champs in such a way that is only the people who make money can afford to go to Champs. The ethos of Champs that I grew up with as a youngster coming out of KC in 1969 when I just got to school is that you go to Champs, go support your school, and you used to get a little pass so you can go in a bleachers, right? We are pricing Champs in such a way now that the schoolers can't go there. So how do you build an athletic reputation in terms of the support for athletics in Jamaica when you're locking out the schoolers? The idiocy of that decision is such, because if you get a youngster hooked on the sport while he is 12, 13, 14, and 15 years old, you are going to have him or her for life. But if you set up the thing in such a way that it's not welcoming them to come and support. My position is that if Grace Kennedy plugging in so much money in a Champs, the bleachers should be free to schoolers. All you need to do, you go to the gate with your ID and you go in at the stadium, right? Because you need to encourage these youngsters to come to the stadium to support their schoolmates. And that support is going to follow you in terms of developing the support for the sport over the next couple of decades. To this day, as long as I'm not engaged in anything else and champs around me there Jamaica for champs, right? Because me cut the teeth on the thing. Well, we lose the young people then based on that. But that's a different discussion. We're looking on the, just the whole scenario. And again, let me go back and let me say it again. Babsy Grange today, in my opinion, demonstrate, I mean, I'm this on a politics, but may I say, Babsy Grange, I'm proud of you today. I listen to you today. I'm proud of you. You never talk like just the minister, right? I never got that impression. Yeah, never have to make no job after the opposition or your opponents. She spoke to the issue at hand, and she spoke about what she was going to do about it. I believe, though, Babsy, you have to bring in some other younger people in the discussion now to help people understand the direction of the problem so that we can find the solutions to get us back to it. Because we need all of the athletes them to back for Jamaica. And we need for, when I say that, Jamaica for pay athletes, a salary, but maybe some sort of a stipend that help them, especially those who don't have no sponsor. We have to look at how that works, right? So that these athletes know that when them come at training, all them training thing, them coaching thing or work, that the coach happy, etc., etc. And because most of them Jamaicans there, them no want left them country, right? You'll have a few like myself who jump the ship and gone. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing. Because guess what? Regardless of where them go in the world, them are Jamaica. I'm going to leave that right there. So I want to take a little touch on the politics. I see Mr. Neville Williams is joining us, and always glad to have him, my friend. But we're in the political season now, right? And we kind of run out of gas in terms of time. We have easily about 10 minutes. So let me make this quick. Now, let me tell you, this is going to be one of the elections at a time, let me say what Donovan said, I think no one wants to deal with the children. They're viewed as a problem and unruly. Adults don't seem to care. Opinion again, Donovan. I can't say that I share it. Kids are always going to be challenging. What we need is we first of all have to change our attitude, right? There was a time when I would look on politics in a very strident way. It's about PNP, JLP. But stop to that. I look on Jamaica right now. I look at what is best for Jamaica. And so we want to carry this part of the conversation. Mr. PP talked about Babsy earlier as a jump on the thing. So your time. Now, I look on the JLP, I look on the PNP, and the voters have a choice that they must make. My first advice to Jamaicans is get up off of your backside on election day and go vote. We can't have 1.9 million people on a voters list and only 700,000 a turnout for go vote. Because when you do that, what you do is that you're not participating in the democratic process that so many Jamaicans have given up so much so that you can have a vote. So get up off of your backside. I don't care who you vote for, JLP, PNP, get up and go vote. So that when we have a contest and it's over, the voting count is a reflection, the broadest reflection of the broadest will of the Jamaican electorate. That's first thing, right? People need to get up off of them behind and think. Everybody have all kind of criticism, and once somebody go out there and put themselves in front of the public to represent, you will get criticism. If you're back not broad enough to take the criticism, don't go in a politics, right? We need to go through this election cycle, and we must do they make the decisions that will make in terms of who you want to represent the country for the next 5 years based on the facts, right? The facts. The facts of A. How do we rate the current administration over the period that they have been in the stewardship, have had the stewardship of the country, right? Do they deserve to get another term? These are real questions. I'm not trying to answer that for anybody, but these are the questions. Against that background, you need to also look at the opposition who is contesting for the steerings and the gear levers. Have they demonstrated to you as a voter that they are more capable? A tough question, because them out of grass now for almost 10 years, but a tough question. But you still have to answer, right? What is it about what they are saying that would allow you to make a decision in favor of them as opposed to the current set of people, right? Let us have these conversations. Let us stop the tear down, because at the end of the day, all the way are Jamaicans, right? All the way are Jamaicans, right? Opal says, go and vote. Remember, election have consequences. If you don't vote, you do not have the right to complain. I don't agree that people don't have the right to complain because them don't vote. But beyond that, I still agree with you, though. People must go to vote. So let's come back. So there are, when you look at the current administration, there are a lot of people are complaining that they must suffer. If you agree with that, then it must be reflected in your decision. To what extent are they suffering? Is it a case where the circumstances that the current administration is operating under doesn't cater to them? If that is the case, that must be the basis on which you are going to cast your ballot, right? That you don't believe that the current administration is representative of your interests. Now, at the same time, you need to look at whatever pluses and minuses that assails either side, right? It's not sufficient to say, I vote for PNP because Mark Golden a British. Mark Golden is a Jamaican just like the whole of it. I'm born at the University of the West Indies, right? And go to school, everything. Live at Jamaica. So that is a bullshit argument, right? Let's deal with where I say him going to do and how it gel with where the current people are. Let's do that, right? And if you believe that him no better than or him better than, then you make a decision on the basis of that. The corruption argument is a big argument, right? Because the corruption pretend to a whole heap of other things now, right? How does that weight against your own decision? How you would make your decision in terms of how you're going to cast your ballot? And then you have to look at the economy. You're going to look at things like crime. We have been assailed by a marauding criminal enterprise in Jamaica for the better part of the last 40 years. It's not a yesterday thing. It's not a yesterday alone thing, right? Opal Mara said they should also look at the transparency where it pertains to the current leader and the aspirant as well. No argument with that, right? What we want to do, and that's why I'm trying to get people in a different kind of mindset. So we cut out the tear down thing because you're labor right, deal with you because you're socialist. Me want what is best for Jamaica. And no one person alone can make that decision. It's a collective decision, right? If you believe that the current situation is not working in your favor, then you must be prepared to go and throw your ballot in the box to reflect that, right? We have seen a dramatic reduction in murders. We have seen a significant ramping up, equipping of our police force, right? Even me, who are one of the biggest critics of the police, have to say that the current police force, I may say, operate, and the demonstration of their capabilities, it is refreshing to watch it. I don't agree with them I go out and I kill legal youth them thing, but that's a whole different discussion. The reality, though, is that we are seeing for the better part of February, March, April, May, almost the last 4 months, we have seen a dramatic reduction in murders and other violent crime. And that's a step in the right direction. Because if we have a society that is less impacted by criminality, it encourages investment, right? It encourages people in the diaspora who want to come back to Jamaica, come invest their money, open businesses. You are going to be better able to attract investors who will bring better paying jobs to Jamaica, right? Because crime is a major problem, right? As Opal is saying here, body camera must and should be worn by the officer. Don't just wear them, Opal. They need to turn them on. Turn them on. If your activity is above board, you don't have to worry about people seeing where you're at, right? We need to do that. Donovan Wallace said we have a history of political tribalism could have caused the younger generation to abandon the process because of avoiding conflict. And you are absolutely right with that, Donovan. A lot of people are turned off. The tribalism, it's an interesting point you raise. Jamaica right now have a situation where you have a huge cluster of Jamaican voters are in the 50 and over age group, right? And then there's a middle group of young people who they're eligible to vote, but they're not interested because they don't want to get caught up in this kind of tribalism, right? My thing is that, me look on politics, just like how we can sit down and we talk about Babsy and her stewardship. Because I love Babsy. I just believe that I'm not ageism because I'm an old man. I just believe that our portfolio is a little thing. But, Babsy Grange is a must in any political cabinet because she's a worker. It's just that she's not ageless, and there's a time and place where, after a while, you just run out of gas, right? In fact, Audrey Marks, who was the most recent ambassador to the United States, I'm afraid to tell you, I know Audrey Marks from, she was a young girl at work here in Jamaica. I used to work just down the road from a Grace Kennedy. And, as young people, we always, here in Jamaica was that office was a site for some of the nicest Christmas office parties. So me know her from them time there. And me will say, I'm not afraid to tell anybody that. I care which party she served. Audrey Marks's career and service to Jamaica is unmatched by any other people in the current administration, either side of the aisle, political aisle, right? She served, first of all, she built one of the first the technology business in the country. Paymaster is one of the first companies, first businesses that utilized technology in a way that it was never utilized before. Before that, used to have a long line at the 1 or 2 JPS office and Water Commission office to pay your bill. And she changed that with Paymaster and had offices of Paymaster across the country, right? You have to recognize that, a captain of industry. Eh? And this is not a girl born with a gold spoon in her mouth. right? She educated herself. She, like myself, go back to school when she a big woman, go do her degree and her master's degree, right? And today, she now walk away from the ambassadorship, come back to Jamaica, and is now running a seat. People may have talk, you can say anything you want to say. Do I believe that she's deserving? Absolutely. This is somebody I would have loved to see, the country take full advantage of the abilities that she has. Because without a doubt, she have enough skills, right? And so, this is one of the dilemma of the divided politics that we have. Because if the JLP lose, we're gonna lose that, right? If the PNP win, would they bring her in? I doubt that is very, very much, right? And so, but having said that, we need to have this kind of conversation as we approach the election. As Donovan said, we have to get rid of the political tribalism. We can have a conversation, you on one side, me on the other side, and we still can have a good discussion, right? We don't have to be cutting each other throats. We don't have to be Xing out one another because you are one party and me are the next one. Me believe in let's get the best talent together for Jamaica, right? The current administration has presided over an economy, and PNP man will say, yeah, but how we did start, it no matter. We have a debt to GDP ratio in the 60% better than most countries right now. The job now of the administration, or whoever formed the next administration, is to make sure now that economic space that we have, we use it for better things for the average Jamaican in the country. There is a good feeling out there now that we're going to find some oil. Let me tell you, if Jamaica, if those exploratory work that is being done out there, the drill for oil, if it's successful, a game changer that for Jamaica. And in my mind, it no matter who are the government at that point anymore. As long as I'm now going to thief the opportunities that we get, right? What we need to do as Jamaicans is hold our political servants, because that's what they are, right? That's what they are. They're not no damn political masters. They are there to serve the people of Jamaica. And we must hold them to account. Mr. Holness, you and this Integrity Commission is an embarrassment, right? It is an embarrassment. And then you need to clean up that, right? If you win again, you have to clean that up, right? We can't have a set of policemen, a police thing, and when them come at your gate for police, you lock them up. That can't work. That is not good, right? Me don't care what anybody else wants to say. No, me believe in institutions, right? And we need to make those institutions work. We appoint these public servants, Jamaicans, no matter whether you're PNP or Labour, right? Me believe that your politics is insignificant. Because if you're loyal to, if you're committed to serving your country, it no matter which party you come from, right? Me not buy the argument that because you may support the PNP or the JLP, that you are not a person of integrity. You know, buy that, right? And anybody who smoke that kind of bushweed there, dash it away, because foolishness that, right? We country too small, with population now grow. So we have to make sure that those people who are willing to come out and put up their hand and serve the country, right? That those people, we give them the room to do their job. You know, by this divisive thing, right? And that's how we don't cut it out. The thing though, what we have to look at, we don't love to get this election thing out of the way quick. We don't want to carry this down in the last quarter of the year. September is when Parliament is supposed to lock down and prorogue. So historically, we have never held an election in August, July or August. I don't think we have ever had an. I know definitely We've had a couple of elections in September, some in December, we have had a few in April. Never had an election in August and September. Definitely not in August, right? We have had a few in September, that's correct. But we have never had any in July or August. I don't believe that the current administration can call an election in any of those months, but I don't believe that they're gonna go beyond September. So I know that Mr. Holness is busy. I don't hear from the PNP either where they're gonna do. And I am one of those persons who challenge the PNP. You have this floor, you can come on my program and talk about how now run the country better. So that the people, if people vote for you, them have them informed. This argument about, put out your manifesto because the next man in my teeth. It's a bullshit argument that. Rubbish argument that. Right? That is a disrespect you show to the electorate. Right? You need to give people information. Because we in an electronic age. So if you put it out, the people will know, say you put it out. You don't need to worry about the next man them got teeth. A bullshit argument that disrespecting the voters of the country. So Mr. PNP man, pull up on the socks, right? Because we need to hear how the PNP all run the place better than the current JLP. And Mr. the current JLP man them, tidy up on the house, the integrity thing and so on, the cut gains and the locking out a part of the population. Because at the end of the thing, all the way at Jamaica, when the election done, we'll need everybody to keep the wheel turning, right? Let me hear on the thing, right? That's all the time I have for this evening. It has been a pleasure, as usual. And again, we're going to pick this up again next week, Wednesday, where we're going to take a look at the happenings in Jamaica, both on the political and social and sporting sphere, as we think. What do you think about the football team? The 4-1 bus so we get the other night was very, very difficult to swallow. No matter how much sugar you put on it, you can't swallow it. But that's a discussion for another time. Just want to use the opportunity to put a little plug here for my book. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we're having the launch of my third book, Unbroken, Sheila 2.0. And this is going to be at Veterans Park at 7600 Northwest 58th Street in Lauderhill. And that's the doors open at 5:30. We're going to be talking about the book. We're going to play some videos. In fact, let me give a little quick snippet of one of the chapters that come from the book.
Sheila Salmon sat by the window of her Constant Spring Road office, overlooking the bustling mix of foot and vehicular traffic in the streets below. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the city that had been her home all her life. She traced the rim of her coffee cup with her finger, lost in thought. The decision before her was monumental: how to make the best use of the proceeds of the monetary settlement that she had received. By any stretch of the imagination, this was a huge amount of money, opening her third designer clothing store in a city where dreams were more often deferred than realised. Her thoughts wandered back to that fateful day at Outpost and Company Limited, where she had worked diligently for years. The internal legal issues for which she had almost no involvement had been presented as the reason for her dismissal. Her attorneys were able to put the pieces together and determined the real reason the company had found itself out on a slender limb and needed a scapegoat. And while the just 7.6 million settlement she had received after legal expenses was substantial, it had come at a high emotional cost.
All right, so that is just a little snippet from one of the chapters in the book. We launch this on tomorrow at 6 o'clock. This is what the book looks like. The book, by the way, if you wherever you are, book is available on Amazon.com. You can also purchase on my website at yardmedia.com. And just if you're purchasing on Yard Media or you can, text me directly and we get you an autograph copy. We're going to try to stream the launch tomorrow. But, this is just, I am a man who believes in telling our stories. I've moved to this country, and what I've observed is a lot of the people who talk about Jamaica don't really have a clue as to where the country, the struggles and things. We tell the stories to ourselves. I am a man who, I rather than talk, what I try to do is to put my efforts out there, and it was that kind of thinking when that has led me to writing. I have a couple of other books. This is Sheila Point One, Sheila, the girl from the lane, which is this particular book, Unbroken, is a sequel to that book. And I also wrote Top Rankings, Chronicles of Jamaican Badness. So, we are a compendium of multiple stories as Jamaicans. And it is when we record these stories, it provides a template for the generations behind us in terms of where we're coming from and how we help to point them in a positive direction. And so that was the thinking behind it. There are a lot more stories where those come from. But tomorrow we're gonna celebrate Sheila's Unbroken at the Veterans Park in Lauderhill. Do join us. That's all the time we have for this evening. Again, want to thank everybody who joined. Want to thank the people on YouTube. We had a nice, stimulating discussion. A number of people seem to have been on Facebook and participated. Always love to have you guys. And until we do this again on Wednesday of next week, more time. Big respect.